I'm Shannon Ireland, your host of a Healthy Push podcast. I struggled with anxiety, panic disorder, and agoraphobia for 15 years. Everything used to be hard for me. Even just driving 5 minutes from my house used to feel impossible. But now I absolutely live for travel and adventure, and I experience lots of peace and joy. I've not only reclaimed my life, but I've helped hundreds of others to do the same. Here, we stop managing anxiety and instead we create a healthy relationship with it. One where you say goodbye to the anxious thoughts, symptoms, panic attacks, and fears, and you actually live your life. Forget complicated strategies, quick fixes, or the same old hacks you've heard 100 times before. Each week, I'll bring you simple, actionable advice and honest conversations that lead to real, long-term healing. You aren't just an anxious person, my friend. There are reasons why you're struggling with anxiety, and these are things you can fix and heal from. And this is where that journey begins. Welcome. You're right where you're meant to be. Hello, and welcome back to a Healthy Push podcast. Today's conversation is such a special one. I have a guest with me. I am here with Demi Dawkins, who lives with autism and ADHD, and she's found a really beautiful way to support her brain through art. And she also used to struggle with anxiety in a way that felt really consuming and controlling of her days, her choices, and how she saw herself. But over time, she began to understand her brain differently and not as something that's broken, but something that's wired uniquely. And art became one of the tools that really helped her to regulate and express and ground herself. So, we're going to talk about Demi's journey and what anxiety looked like for her and how neurodivergence was like in the mix and shaped her experience and the overlap between anxiety and ADHD and autism and how creativity became more than a hobby. It really became support. So if you've ever felt like your brain moves too fast or feels like loud and it just works differently, this episode is really going to be for you. So I'm so excited. Debbie, welcome to a Healthy Push podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, this is going to be a really good conversation. I was just, before we hit record, I was like, I have not had a conversation surrounding how art and creativity can support our mental health. And I think it's such a big, important conversation. So I'm really excited about this.
Me too. Absolutely.
Okay, let's start. If somebody's not familiar, you are very vulnerable and honest, which I love on your social media and like in all the places about your diagnosis of AUDHD. Can you talk about what that means to you and how autism and ADHD shows up in your life?
Yeah, so it's like it was such a eye-opening diagnosis. For me, I always sort of had an internal voice. This is what a lot of ADHD and autistic people talk about, is this internal dialogue that is constantly going on. And I didn't realize that neurotypical people don't actually have that or tend to have that typically. So I kind of have like spent my life sort of with this constant chatter and constant noise. And other things I struggled with too, executive dysfunction, focusing, following conversation, memory, all these things were affecting me in school. And I was sort of just trying to fly under the radar and just get through it. And I needed so much support. Like I look back now and I think, wow, like I was really actually struggling. Yeah, because of that, all of those symptoms from the ADHD and autism, the things that the way my brain works differently led to a lot of anxiety. So I hope that answers your question. So this is another thing about ADHD. I will hear the question, start going, and completely lose track of where I am. So bring me back to baseline if that happens.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. So this sounds like this has been a long-term thing for you. Like you could see this like in early school days, but
Yeah.
never got a diagnosis. So when did that come about? Like when did you get the diagnosis and you were like, oh my gosh, I've been struggling with this for a long time?
Yeah, so I got the diagnosis about 5 years ago. It always still feels like it was only a couple of years ago because I feel like lockdown took a massive chunk of time. But when I look back, it was actually about 5 years ago now. So from as long as I can remember, I mean, I got diagnosed with anxiety and depression at the age of 17 and was put on medication, which just didn't work for me. It actually made me worse.
Yep.
Which again, I've heard from other peers that that's very common because we're given the wrong thing. You know, I need the dopamine, not the other. Is it serotonin? I believe it is. If you ask my mum, I was a challenging child. I was very troubled. I definitely had issues with my anger, which I now know is just me being overstimulated, stressed out, and I would kind of be very just impulsive, very impulsive, being in trouble with teachers and other things. And I wasn't fine with the learning part, but I wasn't stupid. It's not that I was
Yeah.
stupid. It's just that I needed to have the information told to me in a specific way and broken down into bite-sized pieces and be given a little bit more time. But I just thought, oh my gosh, I'm just completely drowning here in school and I don't know who to ask for help. I feel silly and it comes with a lot of shame. So you don't want to be seen as the person in class that is just not getting it. But I really wasn't. And the thing is, I wasn't particularly hyperactive physically, jumping around the classroom and being disruptive. I was more it was more hyperactive in my brain. So I'm sitting there and looking like I'm listening and understanding, but it was completely just flying over my head and I was living somewhere in the future or in the past or distracted by something else. And it even got to the point where it was coming up to exams and I was like, I really, really am worried, you know? And I spoke to every single teacher and said, can I move myself to the front of the class? Because I really want to focus. And I would move myself to the front of the class and I would still struggle. So it was just, yeah, I kind of realized from a young age it was affecting me, but I just thought maybe I'm just silly, you know, maybe I'm just not getting it, but it wasn't that at all.
Yeah, and I feel like that's such a common experience.
Yeah.
So when they were like, "Here, try this, take this medication for the anxiety and depression," at that point, what did the anxiety look like for you?
Okay, so the anxiety for me was I was actually having really bad panic attacks from the age of, I would say, probably 15 to all the way up to like 20, maybe 21. I was waking up in the middle of the night with racing heartbeat, you know, pain in my chest. I remember my first ever panic attack. I was walking down the street and I had left my phone at home. And I think that one little thought triggered it, just spiraled into, oh my gosh, I'm going to die. Something's going to happen to me, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And I had a pain in my chest, pain down my arm. My brain told me I was having a heart attack. So
Uh-huh.
I started running in the middle of the road to stop traffic like a mad woman, and cars were swerving around me, thinking, "What the hell was she doing?" But I thought I was having a heart attack, and I managed to stop a stranger. Poor guy, grabbed him and was like, I'm gonna die. You need to call my mum. You need to call an ambulance." Then they called an ambulance and hooked up the ECG and everything, and they said, I think you've had a panic attack. There doesn't seem to be anything wrong." And that was the first time I was like, "Whoa, this is." And then after that, they happened like every single day. They were just coming and
Mhm.
coming and coming and coming. Because I think once you know what it is, I started to think about it more and look into it more, and it's just kind of snowballs. But yeah, I was having panic attacks in the night, waking my poor mum up in 4 in the morning when she's got to get up at 6, and she'd have to sit with me and calm me down. And I was having them in cars with friends on journeys, and it was really controlling my life and consuming me. And I was just, and then I was dealing with it in the wrong way, drinking more, doing things to just sort of self medicate and calm down, and that just led to more anxiety because, you know, alcohol, ADHD, autism, you have this terrible sort of come down from it all that gives you more anxiety, and then you're back to this cycle. So that was
Yeah.
kind of my life for a long time. Yeah.
Oh, it's so scary when you have that first panic attack.
Yeah.
And then I think it's even scarier when you realize how much your brain has latched onto it. And you're
Yes.
like, I do not want this to happen again. And then it just keeps happening. And you're like, oh my God. So you said this was like 15 to 21. Was there a certain point where, like, things you can remember were, like, so hard? Were you, like, avoiding stuff? Were you not going places and doing things?
Yeah, a lot of the time I was avoiding things, even simple things as making phone calls. jumping on a Zoom call. I just wouldn't do it. I would just avoid it. I would anything to avoid being in public or having a social interaction. I was just like, no, I can't do it because I'm just too anxious, you know?
Yeah. So this is such an interesting question because I've talked to so many people who have had like this recognition now of like, oh my gosh, it's kind of all it was all intertwined, but I never really could see it. So did you feel like at the time like the anxiety was separate from your AUDHD or you didn't even know at that point? I'm assuming that was part of the picture at that point.
No idea. No idea. I mean, it was a friend of mine that brought ADHD to my awareness. I told her a story because I used to work in retail and I was on the counter and this woman came up and we was talking for ages and she was telling me about all these books she read and I really connected with her and I went back home and ordered all 20 books that she recommended. And I told my best friend and she said, Demi, have you heard of
Yeah.
ADHD? And I was like, no, I thought only young boys get ADHD. No, had no
Yeah.
idea like women get it. I just wasn't aware of it. Just wasn't aware. And went down a rabbit hole as you do of
Yeah.
researching ADHD and the light bulb moment of everything I had been experiencing, the anxiety, the anger, the confusion, just the time, the warpness and the lateness, losing things, it all made sense. And I was like, whoa. And then I looked into autism and then there's an overlap in symptoms. And when I probably had a diagnosis, it was like speaking to someone who could finally understand me and go, this is exactly what's going on. There's nothing wrong with you. Your brain just works differently. But I had no idea the two were linked. I just thought, I'll be honest with you, I thought I'm bipolar. I thought I have bipolar. I'm so up and down. It's just not right. From the age of what, 10 years old, the way to secondary school, into college, I was just so up and down. And I thought, is it just me that's feeling like this? Why am I struggling so much with my emotions?
Yeah. That must have been such a massive relief to be able to get this diagnosis that, like, really actually fit for you and made sense and, like, helped you to understand what was going on with your brain.
Yeah. And then I could laugh at it, you know, I could
Yeah.
actually go, ah, I see it now. Like I could actually make light of the situation instead of be like, oh my gosh, I've got to fix this. Like this is bad, you know?
Yeah. Can you talk about what that experience was like going and getting that diagnosis? Because I'm so curious. I mean, I think it's so standard, right? Especially probably when you were struggling. I'm making an assumption that we're around the same age, but like, I think, if you're struggling with anxiety and depression, I think it's such a here, take this pill, try this, and there wasn't much looking into, especially for women, for girls, of like, there could be other things in the mix here. So, can you talk about getting that diagnosis and having that connection and just feeling like, oh my gosh, like this, now I understand and can support my brain differently?
Definitely, yeah. So I went through my GP and I explained my symptoms. I say, I really relate to this. I do feel like I'm suffering X, Y, and Z. And they give you a little questionnaire and you fill out, scale of 1 to 10. And that then I think that then gets sent to a doctor. And then there was a really long wait. I think it was about 6 months, maybe a little bit longer than that. Some people wait up to a year or two. There's such a backlog now because everyone's realizing,
Whoa.
wow, like this is what it is. So there's a backlog. So I waited a while. I can't remember exactly. I believe I was working in a workplace that I had private healthcare. So I pushed that referral to private, but not to put anyone off if you're going for the NHS route because now have this new system where in the UK where it's called I can't remember the name of it, access something. And what happens is you can take a GP referral and you can actually see a private doctor. Um, so I got referred to this company system called ADHD 360, and I think they're absolutely amazing. They have a whole website, and you've got modules and help systems and everything like that. And I, had my first appointment, my first consultation with the doctor that was referred to me, and I sat down, and what they ask you to do beforehand. I think there's a few other questionnaires you go through online. Oh, and actually, there's a test I had to do where you log on and you have to look at a screen, and every time the matching shape and the matching color come up on the screen, you have to tap the space bar.
Okay.
But it goes on for ages. And obviously it's testing your attention.
Right.
So I had to sit there and I had to do this and and all this. And those results go to the doctor you're going to see. And then when I had my consultation, you get your results, and it's definitely ADHD because of I guess they track how quick you click it, or if you're just not getting there, because it gets boring.
Yeah.
It's so repetitive. I just completely was just like tapping. Then you had to, if you're able to, you provide your school reports. And this was another big light bulb moment, because this is the first time I'd ever looked back at, from, I'm talking really little school up until secondary school. Every single thing the teacher wrote about me every single year was exactly the same. Can't concentrate, distracting others, very capable but very distracted, laughing too much, talking too much, blah 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 blah, for years. And my mum actually cried because she go, "Oh my gosh, I didn't notice the pattern." I said, "It's not your fault. It just wasn't a thing. It wasn't picked up in, especially girls." So yeah, that was the test part and the providing the information, and then you have the consultation in the chat, and she asks you a bunch of questions, and very unusual questions. Can't remember one of the questions, but I remember thinking that's an odd question. But I would go, oh yeah, yeah, I did experience that. Yeah, I did do that. Like that was what happened, and you get your results back, and she told me, you've definitely got ADHD. How would you like to go about getting support? Would you like to try medication, or would you like to try this and that? And I decided on the medication because at this point I'm working in an office environment, and I was really, really struggling. I just felt I needed something to just quieten down the thoughts and focus on the work and actually execute the work to a good standard without making little mistakes that I'm just not seeing. So yeah, that was sort of the path. And then you go through titration. If you choose to go through medication, you have to try the different medications, and what um type you works for you. The long acting didn't work for me. It was too strong. I found myself very jittery, couldn't eat, things like that. I settled on Ritalin, but a very low dose, so like what a child would take, because I don't like to feel too wired, or too just spaced out. So, and it worked really, really well. And I have to say, I would still be on Ritalin if it wasn't for the fact that it affects my IBS. So I've had to come off it. So I've just had to raw dog it through life and find my own ways of coping.
Yeah, and I definitely wanna talk about those different ways of coping because I think there's so many healthy outlets, and I'm such an advocate of medication, but I think understanding education paired with some really healthy coping mechanisms can go a really long way.
Definitely.
So did you, now being able to look back and, like, see all the pieces, do you really feel like just that lack of support, that lack of understanding, the lack of support that you were able to give your brain really fueled a lot of that anxiety and panic you were experiencing?
Yeah, definitely. I just felt so overwhelmed. It's just the words that comes to mind a lot. It's just overwhelmed by all the things that's just you need to do as to be a normal person in this world. It just felt too much, and it just led to so much anxiety and just overthinking everything. And we're actually very empathetic. I feel like I also absorb other people's energy, if that makes sense. I
Yeah.
really we can pick up such small cues in people's body language, but no one else notices. I feel like I can read minds like that. That's another thing that people say a lot. I really feel like I can read people's minds, and that comes with sort of I'm just absorbing a lot of emotion from other people, and that can lead into my own anxiety and just worrying about everyone and then worrying about myself. And it's just, yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, I think there are so many things that don't get talked about enough in relation to the overlap between anxiety and ADHD. And I think a lot of it that you see is that sensory overwhelm, the perfectionism, the, like, rejection sensitivity, like, because you are you're so empathetic that you're constantly, like, reading other people, and you can often pick up, and I think sometimes rightfully, but sometimes wrongfully, get this, like, "Oh, this person doesn't approve of me," or they're, like, criticizing me, or they're judging
Yeah,
me,
yeah.
and that then leads to, like, anxiety and anger and sadness, and there are so many freaking layers.
So many things. Like I could honestly, we could probably talk about this for days. Like there's so many layers to it and it just is all intertwined. But you're absolutely right. Like the rejection thing is massive. It's something I'm always going to be working on. Yeah, it's tough. It really is. It's exhausting. And that's why we get burnt out so easily, and just the anxiety and then all the other symptoms along with the ADHD and the autism, and when you have combined as well ADHD and autism, like my brain is kind of like pushing and pulling against each other, and then sometimes they're helping each other. So I'm very like my room is tends to be very, very tidy. But it never used to be when I was a kid. It was a mess all the time. And I was always losing my Oyster card to get on the bus, always losing things that are really important. But I found systems of coping because I was so sick and tired of losing things and wasting money and paying for a subscription I'd forgotten about or making an appointment and completely forgetting about it. I found ways of coping. So I have like a doom bowl where like all my important bits, my keys and my card goes in that bowl. And then when I get home, I take it out of my bag and put it in that bowl. And if I take clothes out, I force myself hang it back up, just put it back on the hanger and put it back up. So there's all these things I've kind of created systems for. And now, yeah, it just works better. But yeah, so like my autism can be I need routine. I don't like change. I like to have structure. I like to know what's happening. I don't like surprises. I like things in really tidy and really organized. But then my ADHD will jump in and be like, we need some chaos. I need some excitement. Let's go and do something risky.
Yeah,
So it's just this constant battle going on. But
yeah,
it's quite funny now. I kind of accept and go I kind of talk to myself and go, "Oh, you're having one of those days. It's okay. You can, chill out. You're allowed to have a day where you don't have to control everything."
yeah. I think self-compassion definitely comes into the mix.
Definitely.
So I'm curious, obviously, like you were kind of saying, you've developed different systems and structures, and you now understand yourself a lot better and like what's helpful for you and what's not so helpful. So when did you come across art as being something that was helpful and not just like, oh, this is a fun creative hobby?
Do you know what? It's so hard to pinpoint the exact moment because I feel like I have always used art to self-regulate, whether knowing it or not. Because not only was I struggling with the other things, I've grown up in a very toxic household, a lot of arguments, a lot of just stress, very stressful environment. And then I was struggling in school, so I just couldn't win. Like I was going home, I was going there, it was just constant. And I find I would or there was a pattern with my creativity. I was always making my best work and making something I was really proud of after an argument or after something that had upset me or feeling super depressed and I just want to get myself out of it and I would just pick up some paints and paint. So I think I was doing it subconsciously to sort of just soothe
Yeah.
myself and calm myself down. From as young as I can remember, I was making things and if there was a row going on in the background, I would like find a cardboard box or find something and like make something out of it and try and gift it to someone in my house. I'll be like, look what I made to maybe just distract everyone from the chaos. So I was doing that. I was doing that quite a lot. And then, yeah, so it's really hard to pinpoint it. But yeah, I've been doing it for a long time. But with the content creation, I was like, I think I need to talk about this more. I think I need to actually share why I'm doing it because this is why I'm doing it. And I think it could really help others and inspire others to do the same because, you know, I've tried the just focus on your breathing, focus on the chest, which sometimes it just doesn't work for me. I don't want to focus in on the feeling that's happening. It can kind of make it larger. So I need to move. I'm a fidgeter. Like right now, you can't see my hands, but I'm fidgeting because I have to stim. So it's kind of like art has been a bit of a stim for me, you know? It's a way to self stimulate, yeah, and calm down. So, and then the pebble exercise, I started pushing a pebble on a piece of paper, and I just felt this like, oh my gosh, I'm not holding my breath. All of a sudden, I'm like actually breathing, and and then the sound of the pen on the paper, and all these things were just yeah, helping me. The texture of the paper, the oil pastels, the sound of the paint splatting, the motion of the brush going across the canvas, like it was all a way to sort of like rest and digest, and not instead of thinking, oh, I need to, focus in on, I just need to calm down, just need to calm down. I was actually doing something to access calm.
Oh, I love that. I love that you said that because that's such a common experience too. And I think when you have multiple layers, like multiple things in the mix, it is incredibly hard to say, okay, I'm just going to meditate. I'm going to go inward. I'm going to breathe. It's like, um, how about let's not go more internal
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it already feels so uncomfy. So
Hmm.
I love because I think this is true for so many people. Like for me, I shared with you, right? Like being creative is also so helpful for me. Movement is so helpful for me. If some like when people would recommend, meditate or breathe, or when I was really struggling with anxiety, I'm like, you don't understand. You have no idea what's going on in my brain and what's going on in my body.
Exactly.
So I'm so curious, what do you, if you could articulate it, I know this might be a little bit tricky, but like what happens internally, like in your brain, in your body when you're creating? Cuz like you saying I'm actually breathing and I can acknowledge that I'm actually breathing, like that is so beautiful.
Hmm. The best way to explain it, if I could explain it in one word, is bliss.
Mm.
Like my thoughts actually quieten down, and I'm just, oh, they don't even completely disappear. They just calm down and slow down and come in one at a time. And I just feel like at rest and at calm. My nervous system is just chill. I feel like I'm like resting and digesting, and I'm just in a zone. Like they call it flow, right? Like you're in flow. Like a lot of artists, creators, people that play instruments are in flow, and that is what I feel is happening for me. I'm able to take something that is take all the energy that is too much and consuming, and instead of going inward, I'm going outward, and I'm putting all that energy into something tangible that I can actually make sense of. So I can take the anger and grab a bit of red paint and go crazy. And then that might move into some rosies and some pink colors because I'm starting to feel a bit more optimistic and, like spring colors. And then I add some white and some gold because, like, I feel like the light has entered me. I don't know. It sounds really deep, but that's honestly how it feels. I feel like it grounds me, really
Yeah.
grounds me. Like the sensory input of it, especially for the neurodivergent side, is like I said before, the texture of the paper, the sound of the pencil on the canvas. It's just this the gentle pressure. It all really anchors me.
I mean, all the things, right? You're saying like it helps to quiet things, it helps you to focus, it helps you to regulate. Also, a big part of this is like allowing you to actually process those emotions.
Yeah,
So many people think in all the standard ways that we've been taught, like that's the only way to process your emotions, like the generic stuff, right? Breathing exercises, journaling, meditation. It's like I don't want to shit on these things. I think that these
yeah, no,
can be
absolutely.
helpful,
Yeah, they work.
but
They do work sometimes.
yeah, but I think art must help you in so many ways to actually process the emotions and like not think about them intellectually, but actually allow yourself to feel and process.
Definitely. I mean, there's art therapists. I'm not an art therapist at all. I'm just an artist with lived experiences. But I remember watching a film once, and I think a child was unfortunately abused, and they would not speak. They kind of went inward and like wouldn't communicate. But then they were put in front of an art therapist, and that was the first time they sort of communicated what had happened, and they were able to process it, and then eventually the child started speaking again and was able to actually communicate verbally. So there's like, art is so powerful. It really is, and it's such a great way to just express yourself in a safe way without feeling like, for me especially, I can overshare, I can yap. Okay, like especially when it's about something I'm passionate about. And also it's also an anxious thing as well. I think, oh my gosh, I've got to fill the silence. So I just start telling things that are really personal to me to try and get that person to relate to me. But then they're just scared off and thinking, oh my God, she's too much. She is too much. So it's a great way for me to, instead of oversharing and then feeling embarrassed about it later, I can overshare on the canvas. Or in my
Yeah.
sketchbook, yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's like me with writing, where I'm like, I really hope and pray nobody ever looks at these writings. But where you just said too much, that's a place I want to go to because I know people often feel like, and maybe the person listening is like, I feel like my brain is too much. Like my brain is too fast, it's too loud, it's too scattered, it's too anxious. What would you want somebody to understand about, like, working with their brain rather than against it? Because I think that's exactly what you've done. I think for a long time, not to your fault, right? You were working against your brain and people were sort of teaching you things that were, like, perpetuating that. So,
Yeah.
what would you want somebody to understand about how you can work better with your brain rather than continuing to work against it?
The noise is always gonna be there. If you've got an internal dialogue, and it is going to be there, but if you can find that one thing that you really enjoy, and it doesn't have to be something crazy or something you need to share on Instagram, or you need to be this influencer or anything. It doesn't need to be like that. It could be you just enjoy going for a walk and talking into your voice memos and just journaling verbally. And it's the same thing as when people say, write it out and then burn it. You're getting it out. Like, if you can find something that you enjoy, just do more of that. Like, just do more of it every single day, and just go with it. It doesn't have to be over the top. It could be so small. If you like the tidying up, find something you can organize, like organize your pencils in color order. Just do something that, instead of sitting there and ruminating, which I do a lot,
Yep.
get busy. All I can say, just get busy. Do something.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think it takes, like, I always tell my students, it takes some playing around just to figure out what's helpful for you and what you enjoy. I mean, I'm curious, has anxiety ever come into the mix with your art and creating? Like, has anxiety ever told you, like, the art needs to be perfect or it needs to look this way or any of that stuff?
Oh my gosh, all the time. And this is why I share this a lot, because I'm not coming from a place of, I've found the magic cure and I no longer have anxiety.
Yep.
It's like I still live with this, and this is just my way of coping with it. But it does come into my artwork quite a lot because, it's so easy to compare yourself. And the rejection sensitivity comes into, oh, this didn't get that many likes. Maybe the art is rubbish. No, not necessarily. So I'm having to navigate the idea of just create artwork that, even if no one sees it, it's yours and it's an expression of yourself. But it does come in, like, I think, oh, that didn't flow right, or that doesn't look good, or just these anxieties of, oh, it's not gonna sell, and blah 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 blah. It's all the time. But then I have to take a breath and take a beat and go, remember why you're doing it, enjoy the process, stop trying to think
Ugh.
of the outcome all the time, just be in the moment and enjoy the process. So
Yeah.
yeah, but it does happen. It does happen a lot, yeah.
Oh, I think that's so helpful. And like working with that is why am I doing this? Like remembering why you're doing it. And there's so many good, helpful, healthy reasons why. Okay. If somebody's like thinking, okay, this is great and all, but like I'm not artistic, like I'm not creative. And I think this is something that I used to say, and I really used to think and believe this. And I am so creative. And so it's like crazy that I ever thought this. I really truly think everyone is creative, everyone is artistic.
Mhm.
So if somebody wants to experiment with creativity to support their mental health, like where would you tell them to start, especially if they're like, I'm not creative, like I can't paint, I can't draw, I can't do any of that stuff.
Oh, that's a good one. I mean, start with cheap materials. You don't have to go and buy really expensive oil paints for the best brand. I mean, you can even create with your, if you have kids, their crayons. Like, just grab something. And a good way to take the pressure off as well is just choose 3 colors to create with. Don't overwhelm yourself with lots of choice. I find that sometimes the less option I have, the more freedom it creates. So you could start with, for example, my pebble exercise. You just need paper, a pen, and a pebble. And you literally just plop in the pebble on the piece of paper, resting your pen against the pebble, and you're just pushing it around the paper, and you're kind of letting the pebble guide your pen. And you're left with these organic, like a organic continuous line, and then from that, you could be like, okay, let's take this a step further and pick colors that are linked to my emotions right now or linked to an experience I want to put on the paper. So I might be feeling calm. So I'm going to choose blue. And I might choose red because I'm feeling really passionate about something that's coming up next week. And then you can color in between those lines. And then you're left with this sort of mind map of emotions of color. So, yeah, you could start with something as simple as that. Or, just watercolor, just sort of painting, letting the paint flow. It doesn't have to be this detailed drawing. It just needs to be whatever you feel like. You could put a blindfold on and just dip your fingers in paint and just do finger painting and see afterwards what you've created. Like, there's so many ways you can just play around and just experiment with low pressure.
Yeah, I love that. And I think too, it's like so many things. I don't know. I think back to when I was a kid and like what I enjoyed as a kid and how I was creative as a kid. And like so much of what I enjoy now in my creativity is what I did when I was a child.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so true.
Yeah. So I think sometimes it's asking yourself that question too of like, what did I do as a kid? What did I enjoy doing? Like, how did I play? And I think it might not look the exact same, obviously, but I think there's so many ways of being creative, like
Yeah.
writing, right? Coloring, like you're saying, painting, knitting, like there's so many different avenues.
There really is. Collaging, getting your old magazines that you're gonna throw out and just create a
Yes.
collage and stick it down with some glue sticks, or create little beads and jewelry, and or Play-Doh. Get Play-Doh and just feel around with it and create bits of food. There's so many things you can do. And the thing is, I think we're sort of told, "Oh, that's childish. Like, we're adults now. We shouldn't play with those things. Like, you need to be doing something that's." I think we need to be going backwards and be doing childlike things, because that is where the joy is. That's the sweet spot, is doing things that you did as a child and enjoyed. Yeah.
Oh, same. I think becoming a mom, you see this in real time of like how blissful, like what you were saying, it can be. That my daughter came this past weekend, we were making clay art and she came down with the clay and was like, hey, let's make, and she would throw out an animal. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? But it's so nice because you're just in the moment. You're not
Yeah.
having a billion thoughts. You're just having that one experience. And I so agree with you. I think when we bring it back to simplistic, basic
Yes.
stuff, it brings joy.
It does. It really does. I was gonna say, you could get clothes, a jean jacket that you no longer want, and paint on the back of it, turn it into something cool and groovy. Like, and then
Yeah,
that could lead into your own sort of business. What, you don't know where it can lead. If you don't play and try and experiment, you just don't know where it can lead. You could discover a talent that you didn't even know you had, that's other people love and invested in.
I love that you just said that. My daughter, she's 7. It's so funny. She came to me, this was months ago, and was like, "Can I cut this piece of clothing that doesn't fit me anymore?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And she came up with this, oh my gosh, I was like, "Are you gonna be a fashion designer?" Of course, I don't
Oh my
wanna,
god, can you
but it
imagine?
was insane. I was like, "How did your brain think of that and to create that?" And it was so cool. So, yeah, I sometimes it's like the things that you're not even thinking about that you're just like, but letting yourself go there is so beautiful. So, do you actually create every day?
I don't. And you know what? I think that's okay. I actually made a reel just the other day talking about this. I feel like we put pressure on ourselves. That's another sort of anxious thing that we do is just this pressure of, oh my gosh, if I don't post today,
Yeah.
I'm not relevant and people are going to think I'm not serious and blah, 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 blah. And, I'm letting myself down. I'm letting my work down. But if I create from a place of urgency and stress, I'm never creating authentic work. I'm never creating work that is truly me. But when I'm coming back to something, when I'm actually in a state of play and in a place of like, okay, I'm ready to come back to this now. I've rested because I need rest. I get overwhelmed. I can't do it every day. And it's okay to do that. You can't force creativity. But when I actually rest and come back to the work, that's when my work is bold and honest and just I love it. It's not
Yeah,
forced,
and you.
you know? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, and me. So,
Ugh,
yeah, I don't create every single but then again, depends on what you're measuring creativity as, because when I'm not painting, I'm editing reels and
yep.
captions, which is a creativity in itself. I'm going through videos and like, where would this look good? Should I zoom in here? So I am kind of creating every day, but I'm not at the same time, it depends on what it is I'm doing. But I do think everyone is creative. Like everyone is creative. When you make your bed in the morning and you fluff your cushions and karate chop the cushions and you pull your curtains and you make everything look aesthetically pleasing. It's creativity. You're creating. You know.
People do that. People make their beds every day. I'm not gonna show you my bedroom.
I think I've got like a slight bit of OCD about my bed. I'm like I have to like everything's got to be straight. So
Yeah.
weird.
Oh, so not me. Well, this has been such a like, just a joyful, good conversation. Like, I've loved this. So if
You
people
too.
wanna find you, Demi, and connect with you, where can they find you?
You can find me at Demi Dawkins Art on all socials, but mainly Instagram is what I use.
I love that. I love the work that you do, and I think it's just so beautiful. So thank you so much for
Thank
coming on and
you.
having this conversation.
Thank you so much, and likewise.
I hope you loved this episode of A Healthy Push. If you have, I'd be so grateful if you could leave me a rating and review wherever you're listening to this podcast. This helps people to find the show and get the support they need. And if you know someone who could use a little push, be sure to share this episode with them. And for even more support, head over to ahealthypush.com for show notes and loads of tips, tools, and inspiration to help you on your recovery journey. I'll see you next week.